Hey guys, how's it going? So earlier today there was a stream over on Twitch where Ubisoft Minds showed off some of the new cosmetic pack that is coming next week for Anno 1800. That is the end of an era cosmetic pack. But the big news was some information finally coming for Anno 117 Pax Romana. The biggest piece of information that a lot of people are going to be really excited about is that Anno 117 is available on Steam to wishlist right now. There was a lot of confusion and some very heated discussion early on when Anno 117's key art was released and Steam was not featured as one of the platforms. Well, they have now announced that it is coming to Steam and you can go ahead and wishlist that. So if you want to, you can check out the link for the Steam page down below in the description and go ahead and get that on your wish list for whenever it releases, hopefully in 2025. The other big thing that came out was some screenshots that we finally have from in the game of some of the islands. Along with all of that, a new blog has been released showing just a little bit of a project update for Anno 117 for November 2024. So let's jump into this blog and let's see what has happened. Back in September, the team had a large internal playtest that lasted for 1 week, where a selected group of players were able to play Anno 117 and give feedback to it. Feedback on things such as residential progression, UI elements, island size, and so on were addressed by the players who got a chance to playtest the game. And the team at Ubisoft Minds took that feedback and has made some changes to it. So in the blog, they do talk about a few of the things that they addressed after the playtest. They have made steps to island size and terrain. They overhauled many of the island designs that they had already created, as well as tree and rock textures, and going by feedback from the internal presentation, they reached what they call the I want to go there on vacation territory, which is really interesting because you can see the screenshots that are showing up on your screen right now, and we were told that these screenshots are from an early development of the game, so I don't know if these screenshots are before or after the playtest. If these are before the playtest screenshots and they have improved on it since then, then I have to say that the art team has done an absolutely fantastic job at creating these islands and making them look really gorgeous, honestly. And if they have been improved from what we are seeing on the screen right now with these screenshots, then that can only be better. They've also done a lot of work in progress versions for NPCs and the diplomacy system. So it looks like we're getting a big revamp of the diplomacy system, it sounds like. So I'm really interested in that. One interesting thing they do say is there are no more I can grab any island I want situations in the playtests. It is time for the players to build more triremes and protect those trade routes. Now, that's an interesting statement to make. I know there are a lot of people who play Anno not to have to deal with competitors and trying to protect trade routes and having to build fleets of warships. You know, there's a large part of the player base who doesn't like doing that. So I am hoping that, you know, even if you play a more peaceful game, that you don't have to, you're not forced to go into the military stuff just to grab islands and protect your trade routes and protect your, you know, trading ships and stuff like that. That you can still play a peaceful game even with NPCs and everything. So there's some interesting, you know, ways that they've worded stuff that makes me kind of wonder, I wonder what that means and how that's going to go. What does that mean for island expansion in Anno 117? What are your thoughts? Let me know down below what you think about this particular statement. Another thing that makes the Anno games really fun and special are the feedback units. That's the people and the animals that you see wandering around your city and around the you know, terrain and everything in the games. So it looks like they've done some big updates to that feedback and everything, and they've added all new animation and new sets of visual stuff in the game. So that's going to be really interesting. And they did some motion capture, so that, and they're going to talk about that in a future blog apparently. So that's going to be really interesting to see. The visual feedback in Anno 1800, you know, the people and the animals, they were really cool and they were very, you know, they added a lot of life to the game. But, you know, they were very static in a way, and it wasn't so much that people were actually walking around your city. The game just generated, you know, sprites from buildings within a certain radius around them. And as you moved around your city, you know, they would move around, but in a way that it mostly followed your camera. So it gave the illusion of a populated city with people going about their lives, but they weren't really. You know, it was just spawned sprites doing different things to kind of give life to it. So I'm interested to see what changes they've done to the feedback units. And last but not least, they have made some improvements on the topic of controller support, building on Anno 1800's console version. They're trying to provide the best experience for each platform without negatively impacting another platform. The various platforms, console versus PC, has been a sticky point for a lot of people, given how Anno 1800 on console was not able to include all of the DLC content because of hardware limitations. And it has put a little bit of doubt in some people's minds as to what the DLCs for Anno 117 are going to be like, seeing as how consoles have not really improved any since Anno 1800 came to console. So how are DLCs for Anno 117 going to look when it comes to the console versus, PC, and what we've seen in the past with Anno 1800's DLCs and how expansive they are? So it's a really interesting question that, we have no answers to yet, but it's something to keep an eye on. And last but not least, they do talk a little bit about the islands that they've shown off in some screenshots and everything. Again, provinces of Latium and Albion. We can see these two right here. We have the screenshot right here from Latium. Absolutely gorgeous. We talked about this on the stream a little bit after the live stream from Ubisoft Minds. We kind of, I had my own stream going, and a bunch of us sat down. We chit-chatted about it. Taking a look at this right here, absolutely, again, this is an early development version of the islands for Anno 117. So if they have been improved upon, then that can only be good, because this is already amazing looking. Some people were saying that, hey, this just looks like Anno 1800, and that is accurate. The Anno engine, which is what the development team calls their engine for the game, has been around since Anno 1602. All they have done is upgraded it, added new stuff to it, and tweaked it and modified it over the years. So even from Anno 2205 to Anno 1800, it was the same engine, so things looked similar, but just improved upon as they improved the engine. The same is true for Anno 117. It's the same engine that Anno 1800 was built on, but they have just improved it. They've improved texture quality, they've added volumetric clouds and mists and everything else. And we can see a good bit of that in this screenshot right here for Albion. We can see that volumetric mist and the clouds and stuff, and it looks absolutely superb. We have some swampy terrain down here. There was a lot of interesting discussion about how this swamp terrain was going to be playing into the mechanics for Anno 117. The developers did specifically state that the swamps would play a critical part in your construction and building in Albion. And what I'm thinking is we're going to see a return of a mechanic from Anno 2205 with the Tundra, where you drain the swamp to reclaim building land. The Romans were known for draining swamps and turning that land into, viable land for farming or building. So it's not completely out of the realm of, possibilities that we could see swamp draining returning from Anno 2205. It makes perfect sense for the era, and it would be a really interesting way to gain more building space. The last few things they talked about here in the blog and everything, of course, is that announcement that Pax Romana is on Steam, and we can wishlist that, so that's really, really cool. And then at the bottom, we just have a look into the future. There's a few things to talk about down here. They are still working on character portraits, quests, and of course music. They are working on a soundtrack. According to Manu, the first part of the soundtrack is done, and that they will be, showing that at some point and giving us some music from Anno 117. So that'll be really, really cool. They are still working on UI elements for the mini menus, and a lot of that is coming from feedback from that playtest back in September, where now they are updating and doing some revisions to that UI and everything based on player feedback. Now, here's an interesting one, and it's the topic of incidents. And by incidents, I mean, of course, things like fires and disease and stuff like that. Now, it would not be an Anno game, of course, without fires and stuff. But what they do say is how often and in which way these appear and how players can act against them are topics that the team is still exploring. The topic of incidents is kind of an interesting one. Everybody's pretty chill with fires and disease breaking out. Those plop down some fire stations and some doctors and you're good. But there are a lot of people who still want to see more region-wide incidents like volcanoes, storms, wildfires, things like that. Something a big outside force that kind of might threaten your entire city or your entire island, and not just one little localized area. So it would be interesting to see what they might plan going forward for incidents for your city or for your islands. I'm of the mind I would like to see some natural disasters return. I thought natural disasters added an interesting mechanic to the game, but of course a lot of players don't like that, so there should be an option to disable that stuff. And that is it. That is what we got in this blog right here. I thought I would go ahead and cover this one. I have not covered any of the other blogs that they put out because they've not really been that interesting and there's not been a lot to really talk about. But this particular blog did give us a lot of good, juicy information about 1.17 that we have been looking for, as well as these gorgeous screenshots. Over the coming months, as more and more information for Anno 1.17 does come out, be sure to check out the channel and watch for that stuff. I will be covering all Anno 1.17 information as it releases. Any sort of gameplay footage, screenshots that we get, I will be putting those up here on the channel for us to check out in anticipation for the final release date sometime in 2025. With that, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, take care.